Hello, students. This is Dr. Jagadish Narendra Prasad, SL in Botany, Sri Chaitanya. Today, in this chapter at a glance session, we are going to discuss about the chapter Living World. Now, let us look first into how many questions have appeared from this chapter in previous NEET. Approximately one question, like in an average, one question has appeared in the previous NEETs. But surprisingly, no question was appeared in the year 2024 and 2025. But in 23, there were two questions. In 22 and 21 also, there is one question from this chapter. So, as there is no question in 2024 NEET and 25 NEET, we should not think that this is not an important chapter, and you have to give the similar preference, and we cannot expect what is going to happen in the NEET 2026. So again, in the 2026, the question may appear from this chapter. But in 24 and 25 only, there is no question from this chapter. This you have to remember. But give the same importance, and many tricky lines are there in this chapter in the NCERT book. So you have to learn, and you must be very careful about every line of the NCERT book. Now, let us look some of the previously asked questions from this chapter. So in the year 2023, there is one question that is housefly belonging to dash family. So it's a direct question from this chapter. It is belonging to Muscidae, housefly. Now in the 2023, there was a re-NEET, like NEET was conducted for twice. So in that, there is again a question from this chapter, that is X and Y are components of binomial nomenclature. This naming system was proposed by Z. They are asking to identify X, Y, Z here. X is generic name, Y is specific name, and Z is the author name. So this is a simple question. It came from the introductory part of this chapter. So these are few important questions from 2023. As I said, there was no question in 2024 and 25, and you cannot expect in 2026. You may get a question from this chapter, but you have to give the similar preference as you are giving to other chapters. Now let us go into some of the tricky lines of the NCERT book. Tricky lines of the NCERT book. The purpose of this session itself is to find out the most important and tricky lines of the NCERT book at this tag ends of your NEET preparation. Now let us go into the line by line. So in the diversity of living world, in the diversity in the living world, as you know that there are 1.7 to 1.8 millions of species are present in this world. Now these kinds of plants, animals and organisms that you see represents a species. Now all these species, whatever it is present in this world itself, constitutes biodiversity. Now as these plants, animals as well as other organisms, there are millions of species are there. And another most important thing, these plants, animals are known with local names, and you also know that these local names vary from place to place and also vary within a country. So for example, if I use the term Capsicum frutescens or Capsicum annuum, it's a chili in case of English, mirchi in case of Hindi, mirapa in case of Telugu. The same plant is given with the different names in different languages. So if you don't know a common name which is used or which is preferable and which is used throughout the world, then it becomes difficult you to find out and recognize the particular plant if that plant is known in a common name. For example, if you go to African countries or if you go to North India, like this is South India, North India, there the people call it as mirchi. So you must be aware about even the common names. It is not possible to know the common names of every plant because there are so many kinds of languages in this world. So we must have a standardized procedure to name the living organisms. So this process of giving a correct scientific name to a known organism itself is called nomenclature. The most important thing, this nomenclature is possible only when an organism is correctly identified. That means before nomenclature, you must know what is that organism, whether it is plant or animal. If it is plant, to which category it is belonging, that you have to identify. This process of determining whether a collected specimen is already known or unknown itself is called identification. So, nomenclature is possible only when an organism is correctly identified. So, out of these two, which one will come first? Is it nomenclature or identification? It is identification, not the nomenclature. It is identification. So that's very important. Now to facilitate the study, like number of scientists have established certain procedures to assign scientific names to the known organisms. For known organisms, to give the scientific names, the scientists have assigned certain procedures. Now, these procedures, whatever it was assigned by the scientists, were acceptable for all the biologists throughout the world. For example, for plants, the scientific names are based on agreed principles and criteria given in ICBN. What is ICBN? ICBN is International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. Similarly, in animal nomenclature, we are following ICZN, that is International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. And one more important thing that everyone must know here is the scientific names ensures that each organism is given only one correct scientific name. There are three important things here you have to remember. The first thing that you must know is every organism is given only one correct scientific name. And the second thing that this scientific nomenclature ensures is description of any organism should enable the people throughout the world to reach to the same organism. If you describe a particular organism, and you must reach to the same organism. That is second important thing. And third important feature is such name has not been given to any other organism. For example, Mangifera indica. There is no other organism, other plant with the same name. There may be a similarity in the species, but you don't find any similarity, like any generic name never used for the different organisms. Specific epithet may be used for the different organisms. Same specific epithet can be used for different organisms, but not the generic name. So, such name has not been used to any other organism. These three things we have to remember. And when the scientific name given procedure came into the existence, the earlier scientists started following polynomial methods. Polynomial method in the sense giving many names to a single organism. Polynomial, the name itself is clearly indicating. Poly means many. Each organism is given with many names. Again it makes confusion. Why? Because it is very difficult to remember that many names for each plant. So you can see now, for example, if Mangifera indica, it has almost 20 names for that single plant by describing its root system, stem, leaf, flower, even in flower different parts. So it becomes very difficult for the people to recollect and remember that many names. Therefore, binomial nomenclature system has been proposed. So in this binomial system of nomenclature, every organism is given with a name comprising two components. A name comprising two components. That means every organism will have two names, two component name. For example, Mangifera indica. Here Mangifera is one component, indica is one component. This kind of nomenclature system itself is called binomial nomenclature. And of course, this binomial nomenclature was given by Carolus Linnaeus. And you are all well known about Carolus Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus also proposed two kingdom system of classification that you are going to get in the biological classification chapter. Now, as I said, you can take even in the NCERT, they gave one example, that is Mangifera indica. Here Mangifera is the first component. This first component is called genus, and indica is the second component. The second component is called a species. Now, there are certain rules for nomenclatural system. Let us see the different rules given for the nomenclatural system. Almost in the NCERT, they gave some 5 rules. In that, the first one, biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics. Here most of the students gets confused that in the examination also, while the question paper setter, while framing the question, they give the statement as biological names are generally in italics and written in Latin. Like that they will give. It becomes false. You know why? Because biological names are given in Latin language. Latin is a language. Italics is a font. So when you write, you must use which kind of font? Italics. Latin is a language. And they are Latinized or derived from the Latin irrespective of their origin. For example, let us take Mangifera indica. India is an English word. Now it is Latinized into indica. This is the way the nomenclature system is given. And the first name represents generic name and the second name represents specific epithet. Epithet in the sense word. This is the second rule. And third rule is when scientific names are handwritten, they must be given a underline. What kind of underline? Separate underline for genus and separate underline for species. Whereas when they are published, they have to be published in italics font. Italics font. This is very important. So when you see any of the word in the NCERT book in italics font, it indicates that that particular word is not from the English language. If it is related to the scientific names, then you can say that whenever you see the italics words, that says that that particular name has derived from the Latin language. This you have to remember. And the fourth important rule is the first word denotes genus. Now let us take this Mangifera indica. Here the first word is Mangifera. Mangifera, this word denotes genus. Genus is a noun, therefore it has to be started with capital letter. Whereas indica, it is the specific epithet, second component of the name. It is adjective, so it is started with small letter. So while writing the scientific name, the first component must be started with capital letter and second component must be started with small letter. This is another important rule that we have to remember. And another most important fifth one is, after writing the scientific name of a particular organism, the scientist who described that particular organism name has to be given in abbreviated letters at the end. For example, let us take Mangifera indica again. It was described by Linnaeus. So, after writing Mangifera indica, we are giving the abbreviated name of the Linnaeus, that is LINN full stop. This is the way we have to write. So, these are some important rules of nomenclature. So, this is about the nomenclature and identification. And the next one that we have to discuss here is classification. So, what is classification? Classification is a process by which anything can be grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. Let us take your own house. You are giving particular names and particular position in your house to each article present in at your house. For example, you are not keeping dining set, or you are not keeping sofa set in the kitchen and dining in the main hall. So, you are allocating each article of your home to a particular room. That means you are categorizing these articles to the different rooms based on some easily observable characteristics. Similarly, even plants and animals are also categorized into different categories on the basis of some easily observable characteristics. This procedure itself is called classification. So, here what is category? So, for example, plants, animals, dog, cat, wheat, rice, this all represents category. For example, similarly, if I say about the term dog, you will be getting the characters related to the dog but not to the cat. In the same way, if I use the term Alsatians is a breed of dog, then you will be getting the picture of dog in your brain. Similarly, if I speak about, like if I say rice plant, you will be getting the picture of the rice plant and the characters related to the rice plant but not to the wheat. So, all these organisms, whatever we are now saying, so this wheat, rice, plants, etc. are convenient categories that we are using. Now, the scientific term that we are using for category is taxa. This you have to be very careful. So, here we must recognize that taxa indicate the category at very different levels. That means plants can form a category, then wheat can form a category, rice can also form category, animals category, mammals is a category, then dog is a category. Similarly, animal like dog is animal, animals are mammals. So, this term category we are using at different levels. Now, this process of categorizing organisms into different taxa itself is called taxonomy. So simple. This chapter is very easy and easy to remember. Now, the modern taxonomy includes some of the important events like external characters, internal structure, and along with that structure of a cell, developmental processes, and even ecological information. So, all these details are taken into the consideration, or they become basis for modern taxonomy. Then what are the basic to taxonomy? Basic to taxonomy includes characterization, identification, classification, nomenclature. These are all basic to taxonomy, and most of the students will approach to the teachers to know about the sequence of these steps. Just follow whatever the sequence given in the NCERT book. Don't make your own corrections. So, we have to strictly bind to the NCERT information. So, characterization, identification, classification and nomenclature. Now, another most important thing, taxonomy is not a new science. It is known to the man right from the long back. That means the earlier man used to study about the various kinds of organisms present around him in order to get the various kinds of things that are essential for his daily needs. Or simply to say, the earliest classifications are based on uses of various organisms. This is most important NCERT line. The earlier classifications are based on uses of organisms. So, this is what we have to know. And we must also know about what is systematics. Systematics deals with various kinds of organisms, their diversities, their relationship among themselves. All this comes under systematics. And this term systematics was again given by Linnaeus in his book Systema Naturae. And systematics also include, like the scope of systematics has been increased to include identification, nomenclature and classification, and systematics also takes into the account of evolutionary relationships or phylogenetic relationships. That is the importance of systematics. Now, let us go into the taxonomic categories. This is another important topic in this chapter. So, classification, as you know, is not a single step. It includes a hierarchy of steps. Here, most of the students gets confused. What is this hierarchy of steps? Let us take your campus. In your campus, there is a coordinator, there is a vice principal, there is a principal, there is a dean, there is an executive dean. Then still, if you go higher authority like director, chairman, like different hierarchy is there. So, for each individual, there is a separate work to carry out. Similarly, even in living organisms, we can find the categories at different levels. Now, here, each step of this hierarchy is called category or a rank. Coordinator is a rank or category. Dean is a rank or category. Chairman or director is also a rank or category to run this whole Sri Chaitanya Institute. Similarly, here even in plants and animals we have different categories. Since this category is a part of overall taxonomic hierarchy, it is called taxonomic category. In taxonomic hierarchy, it is a part. For example, let me tell some categories: species, genus, family, order, class. Like this we have different categories. Now these categories, each category is a part of overall taxonomical hierarchy. Coordinator or vice principal is a part of the system of classification. So it is, or the system of hierarchy. So it is a taxonomical category. Similarly, genus is a taxonomical category. Species is a taxonomical category. Family is a taxonomical category. And all these categories, like from kingdom to species level, all these categories together called taxonomic hierarchy. This total, all the categories together called taxonomic hierarchy. This is another important thing. So each category can be referred to as a unit of classification that represents a taxon, that means that represents a rank and also a taxon. So these taxonomic categories can be illustrated by taking a simple example. Let us take an insect. Insects will have 3 pairs of jointed legs. Do you have 3 pairs of jointed legs? No. And is there any other organism other than these insects have 3 pairs of jointed legs? No. Only insects have these 3 pairs of jointed legs. That means these 3 pairs of jointed legs, whatever the character now I am saying, it is very specific to the insects, not to any other organism. Therefore, now the insects can be raised into a category because they have some specific or unique characteristics which cannot be seen in any other organisms. Therefore, it can be grouped into a category. Similarly, mammals, they have external ears and body hair, external ear and body hair, isn't it? So they can also be grouped into a category. Now, as I said, this category or rank represents a step, or it can also be called as taxon. Now, there is one specific NCERT line under these taxonomic categories. This is most important thing. These taxonomic groups or categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregates. Here merely in the sense only. They are not only morphological aggregates. It's a distinct biological entity. This you have to remember. So, in any classification, whether it is a plant classification or animal classification, we have different kinds of categories here. That includes kingdom, phylum or division, class, order, family, genus, species. These are all the different categories we are following. So, all organisms including both, either plants or animal, in plant kingdom and animal kingdom, species constitutes the lowest or basic unit of taxonomical hierarchy. This you have to remember, and it is very important. Species is the lowest category. This is very important. And what is the, how to keep a particular organism under a specific category. Say for example, Mangifera indica. Now indica is kept under species and Mangifera is kept under genus. And this plant is kept under a family called Anacardiaceae. Then how to keep like a particular organism under a family or under a order or under a class or a division or kingdom? Again based on characteristics of individual group of organisms. So this will help us to identify similarities and dissimilarities among the individuals so that you can keep a particular organism under a specific category. Now let us go into one by one. Like first let us see about the species. When it comes to the species is nothing but, as I already told, it is the basic unit of the total taxonomical hierarchy. It is the basic unit or fundamental unit. So all those organisms that are fundamentally similar, this word you have to remember, fundamentally similar, are kept under a species or considered to be a species. And you must also be in a position to distinguish one species from other species. Say for example, in the NCERT book we are given with some examples: Mangifera indica, Solanum tuberosum, Panthera leo. Here indica, Mangifera indica, in that indica is the species. Solanum tuberosum is the species. Panthera leo is the species. Whereas Mangifera, Solanum, Panthera, this represents the still higher category, that is genus. And each genus may have one or more specific epithets. Some genus will have only one species, monogeneric species. I mean, single species may be included in a genus, or many species may be included in a single genus. Let us take some example. You take Solanum. Under Solanum, we have Solanum tuberosum, Solanum melangina, Solanum nigrum. Like that we have different species. In the same way, Homo sapien. Homo sapien is nothing but human. You have Homo is a genus and sapien is the species. Similarly, what is a genus? Genus is nothing but a group of related species that have common character in more common character in comparison to the species of other genera. Species of other genera. So that is the importance of this genus. So at genus level, the number of similar characters relatively less when compared to the species level, because at species level all organisms fundamentally identical. You don't find any difference. Fundamentally identical. For example, we have some examples in the NCERT book itself, like Solanum, then Panthera leo, then Panthera pardus, then Panthera tigris. These are all some important genera. And Solanum tuberosum, Solanum melangina, Solanum nigrum. These are all some important genera and species. Now, Panthera is one genus. There is also another genus called Felis that includes like cats. The Felis and Panthera both are different genera. Then what is a family? Let us take the consideration of family. Family is nothing but a group of related genera kept under one family. A group of related genera with a still less number of similarities when compared to the genus and species level. I already told, at species level you can find maximum number of similarities. Number of similarities come down at the genus level and still it is less at species level. In case of plant families are identified by taking both the vegetative and reproductive characters into the consideration. This is very, very, very important. Then among the plants that given in the NCERT book, like Solanum, Petunia, Datura, these are all belonging to a family Solanaceae. Similarly, Panthera, Felis, these are all belonging to a family called Felidae. There is another genus called Canis that is belonging to the family Canidae, that includes dog. So this Felidae, Canidae, both are different. Next, order. So as we discussed now, at the species level, genus level and family level, these are all based on number of similar characters. Generally, order and above levels of taxonomic categories are identified based on aggregates of characters. Because at order and higher level, it is an assemblage of families. Order is nothing but assemblage of families. As the number of similar characters is very less at order level, so you are taking different characters into the consideration to identify a particular organism belonging to which order. And here in the NCERT book, they gave two important families. One is Convolvulaceae and the other one is Solanaceae. These two families are belonging to the order Polymoniales, and they are included under the order Polymoniales mainly based on floral characters, not only, remember here, mainly based on floral characters. Similarly, animal orders like Carnivora includes Felidae and Canidae. And when it comes to the class is nothing but a group of related orders were placed under a category called class. For example, order Primata, that includes monkey, gibbons and also gorilla. It was placed under a class called Mammalia along with the order Carnivora, that includes both Felidae and Canidae. So this is one important thing. When it comes to the phylum is again a group of related classes were made into a phylum. Here you must be very careful that the term phylum we are using for the category in case of animal classification, whereas in case of plant classification we will be using the term division instead of phylum. This you have to remember. And in the same way, now we have different kinds of organisms like fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals. These all constitute the higher category that is called phylum. Now these are all kept under a phylum called chordata, and of course this chordata they are placed under category called chordata, like class called phylum called chordata, on the basis of some important characteristics like presence of notochord and also dorsal halo nervous system or neural system. So these are the two important characters taken into the consideration to include all these organisms under phylum chordata. Similarly, in case of animals, we are using division instead of phylum word. This you have to remember. Now, all different phyla with related characteristics placed under a kingdom called Animalia. Similarly, all the different divisions with related characters placed under a kingdom called Plantae. So we have two important kingdoms here. It's not that only two. In 5 kingdom systems we have 5. In 6 kingdom systems, 6 kingdoms. So there is also 8 kingdom system. So there are different methods. So I am not going into that details. That will be dealt in a separate chapter called biological classification. Now let us see these categories once again. Now this is the hierarchy of categories like given in the NCERT book. Now the species, genus, family, order, class, division, kingdom. These are the different hierarchy. Now this arrow mark here, whatever it is shown in the flow chart, indicates the ascending order. This you have to remember. Now the most and very important thing that you must remember here is the scientists have also divided these categories into subcategory to make this whole process of classification becomes sound and more scientific. That means a species is divided into subspecies, genus can also be divided into subgenus, family into subfamily, order into suborder, class into subclass, and division into subdivision, kingdom into subkingdom. Let me show a just flow chart about the various kinds of subcategories present in each category. So if you start from variety, you have many categories at every level. Now this is one important flow chart that you need to remember. Of course, this is related to a little bit higher level, but still it is very important to know that every category can be divided into subcategory. Every category. A genus can be divided, a species can be divided. Say if you look into here, say there is a category called tribe, though it is not given in the NCERT book, but in the previous, like at AIPMT exams long back. So this tribe came in one of the AIPMT exam. Tribe is a category which is found between subfamily and genus, or simply to say family and genus. So such kind of categories are also there. Now order, we just simply say that order is one category. In order we have superorder, then suborder, infraorder. So these many categories are there. So this you have to remember. And as we go from species to kingdom, what will happen to the number of similarities? Gradually decreases. So lower is the taxa, more are the characters that the organisms present within a taxa shares. And higher is the taxon or higher is the category, more is the difficulty to relate with other category of the same level. That means as you go from species to kingdom, as the number of similarities are getting decreased, so it becomes more complex at the higher level to recognize the organisms. So this is what we have to know about the kingdom. Now in the NCERT there is also one table. This is also very important table. Now let us look into this table. Just I am not going to give every details of this table. Most probably in our internal exams also many questions have come, like many times the questions have appeared by asking the suffix letters of each category. Let us look into the animal families. Animal families will always have a suffix letter that is IDAE. Whereas see Hominidae, Mastidae, IDAE is the suffix letter. Similarly in the family, Anacordiaceae, Poaceae of plant families. So here suffix letters is ACEAE in case of plant family. So in animal families we are using the suffix letters of the family category family as IDAE, whereas for plant families we are using ACEAE. In the similarly, in case of plant orders, we are using the suffix letters as ALES, Sapindalis, POALES, Poalis. These are the suffix letters. Understood? This you have to remember. Next, let us see the common mistakes that most of the students commit, in this chapter. Particularly, as I said in the beginning of this chapter, when you are discussing about the rules of nomenclature, most of them gets confused to use these two terms like Latin language and italics font. So, as we know that biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics, but in the examination instead of that they gave biological names are generally in italics and written in Latin. So if it is like this, then it becomes false. And you must also aware about the difference between category and taxonomy. There is a difference. Now let us see interconnections of this family with this chapter with other chapters of the NCERT. So most of the examples, like almost all the examples, whatever it is given in this chapter, they have interconnection with the examples of morphology of flowering plants. Now they frame questions in such a way that by asking the characters of particular plant or animal, they link with this chapter, or they ask you about to identify a particular category like genus level or species level or family level, something like that. So, this chapter has interconnection with morphology of flowering plants. Now, before we close, let us quickly revise or remember once again the important aspects of this chapter. Now, the most important definitions that you need to remember here is the definition of systematics. Most of the students that they get confused, and the second one is taxon. So, and you must also be aware about the difference between category and taxon. So, both are different, they have some slight difference. Now, let us see the important NCERT lines of the chapter. Now, as I said, there is a sequence that is about the basic to taxonomy, that includes characterization, identification, classification and nomenclature. This is the sequence. This sequence you have to remember. And there is also another important line I already stressed while explaining about the taxonomic categories, that is taxonomic groups or categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregates. This you have to remember. And many of them forgets that Convolvulaceae and Solanaceae are included under Polymonialis on the basis of, is it only morphology or mainly morphological, mainly floral characters? It is mainly floral characters, not only floral characters, that you have to remember. So, and the important flow chart of this chapter is this one, like the categories, various categories, hierarchy of categories given in the textbook. This flow chart you have to remember. There is also one important exception in this chapter. So, in case of phylum, like the term phylum you are using for a category to represent animals, whereas we are using division for plants. So, while including organisms under animals, if you are including, then these animals, animal orders were placed under a phylum, whereas plant orders were placed under a division. So, this you have to remember. So, these are the few important things. Next, let us see some of the objective questions from this chapter. Like let us go into first objective question, like insects were given a rank or category. This is the assertion. So, why they are given a rank or category? I already clearly stressed that insects only have 3 pairs of jointed legs. They have some specific characters which you cannot find in any other organisms, isn't it? Insects are given a rank or category. So, it is absolutely correct. So, why they are given or how they are given a particular category or rank? Let us see the reason. Insects are recognizable concrete objects which can be classified. That means they have some specific characteristics which cannot be seen in any other organism. So, they can be given as category or they can be known as a category. So, both assertion and reason is true and are explained here. So, this is about the first question. Now, let us go into the other one. Pick the wrong match. Here I am asking the wrong match with respect to family and its corresponding orders. So, I have given some families as well as orders. Now, Solanaceae belonging to Polymonialis, we already discussed. Convolvulaceae. Convolvulaceae, is it a Sapindalis member? No. Anacordiaceae is belonging to Sapindalis, not Convolvulaceae. So, it is wrong. Hominidae is a primata and Muscidae is Diptera member. So, second option is wrong here. I am asking about wrong question here. And the third important assertion and reason, look, let us look here. Nomenclature is possible only when an organism is correctly described. It is true. Nomenclature is done only after the identification process is completed, isn't it? So, it is true. Now, let us look into the reason. Without proper identification, the scientific name can be attached to the correct organism. Is it after identification nomenclature is done, or after nomenclature is done, then identification is carried. What are you doing here? Once identification process is completed, then you are going with nomenclature. So reason becomes wrong, because here I am saying that the scientific names can be attached to the correct organism. How? Without proper identification. Is it without proper identification or with proper identification? With proper identification. So your assertion is true and reason is wrong. So this is another important thing we have to know. Next, how many of the following represents the families? Now Solanaceae is a family, Felidae is a family, Canidae is a family, Panthera is a genus, Datura is also a genus. So these are the few important objective questions, and this is about the chapter Living World. Thank you very much.